Hi, I'm Francis Lee. I'm the director and writer of God's Own Country, which screens in the Panorama section.
Josh OConnor, and I played Johnny Saxby in God's Own Country.
I'm Alec Secăreanu, and I play Gheorghe Ionescu in God's Own Country, which screens in the Panorama section.
It's beautiful here. When I was a kid, I thought I would never leave my farm. It's beautiful here, but lonely, you know?
You are, Francis, an actor yourself. You directed like short films. You directed a short documentary. And this is like your first feature film. Were you ready like to make a feature film?
Yeah, so I was an actor. I don't act anymore. I gave up when I made my first short film, which was about 6 years ago. I made three shorts in a row in 3 years. And I wrote this film in 2013 and felt really ready to make a feature, to make that kind of jump. I've never been to film school, or I've never been on a writing course or anything. It was just this story that was so strongly in my head, and I saw it so vividly that I felt that with a lot of help from all the brilliant and talented people I worked with, I'd be able to deliver it.
So can you tell me how has the experience been for you? Like, it's your first feature. I think it's quite challenging to skip from a shorter movie to a full-length feature film.
I mean, for me, I don't think that making shorts prepares you at all. It's a very different medium. So for me, it's the difference between a short and a feature is very much like the difference between a poem and a novel. And so they're very different disciplines, and they're very different ways of telling stories. I just felt that I kind of understood what the story was, who the characters were. I understood the world, and it was just about putting it together.
So, for how long did you write this story? How long did it take you to write God's Own Country, the script?
The first script. So I write very quickly because I do a lot of thinking, and I work it all out in my head over 6 months, something like that. And then the actual physical activity of typing the script up for the first draft takes about 4 days. And then obviously there's development that comes after that, various drafts. But the initial body, the first draft, takes about 4 days.
I did wonder if you had like somebody, a cast in mind when you wrote the script. I mean, they are the main actors, so did you have like one of them in mind when you wrote the script? Not at all.
No, not at all. When I wrote, I just very much wrote the characters, not the person playing the character.
So, God's Own Country is, by the way, not only the movie's title, but also the nickname for the country.
For the region.
Yeah, or for the region.
Yeah, for Yorkshire.
So, and beside that, like, you grew up on a farm yourself?
Yes, my dad is a sheep farmer on the same hill where the film is shot. I live on that same hill now as well. I grew up there. I escaped when I was 20 to go to London to train as an actor. But yes, my dad is still a sheep farmer there.
So are there any other autobiographical details what are
Sorry,
hidden?
excuse
Are
me?
there any other autobiographical details what are hidden in your biography?
In the film?
Yeah, definitely.
No, I don't think the film is autobiographical.
Okay.
I think there are elements of it that are biographical in terms of the landscape, the feeling of isolation. Mainly for me, it was about exploring that emotion, the difficulty of falling in love for the first time, and how hard that can be, and how you have to make yourself vulnerable to the other person. And I think hopefully that, well, maybe that's something we all have kind of felt. So that's what I was working out in the film.
Josh, you play Johnny in the film. You're like a young farmer that's not happy at all with the situation that he's like running the farm. His father had a stroke and he's like pretty unable to do any work. So you're just dealing with your own. I did wonder why there's like no chance for you to escape. So, I mean, for the character. And like, by the way, he's homosexual. So he's like having like quite a lot of trouble in this situation, and like being a young gay man on the countryside is like probably something what's like not too easy.
Yeah, I think there's sort of, I guess, two parts to that. Which is, one is that I feel like Johnny, in some ways, it kind of hasn't the time to even consider how hard his life is on the farm. Because, yes, of course, you're right. There's at the beginning of the film, he is very much, he's kind of head down, working solidly every day, and basically kind of attempting, and poorly and unsuccessfully, to run that farm on his own. But I think there's no real time, and that's what's to connect with how hard his life is, or emotionally to connect with people necessarily. That's what that's kind of how I grasped it. Is that his whole life is go to work, drink alcohol, have sex, and come home, go to work. It's the same kind of, that's the rhythm that he sort of lives by.
I think that also there's a sense with the character that he feels such a responsibility to his family. If he wasn't there working that farm, they would lose the farm. So he's their only option to keep it going and to support that family. And he has to work such long hours and such hard hours that he hasn't got the energy to think about how he feels, or emotionally, or connect. And so his choices are not like his friend who he meets in the film, who's gone away to college. He doesn't have that option. If he did that, his family would be bankrupt. So there's a lot of responsibility there for him.
So the dialogue reflect this kind of situation. Like in the beginning, there's like barely dialogue. It's like the father gives commands to his like son, and that's it. So, but this like really like changes, not like right away in the beginning when you arrive, when Georgie arrives. Gorgie, sorry. So you are like, I mean, your character is like quite intriguing because like you are a stranger, and Johnny is like not happy about this situation at all because like he's a foreigner, and this is like the cliche of a foreigner, like looking a bit different. He's like very warm and like caring, and this like brings like a lot of changes within like the family structures. So how's it been for you to play this role and like this intriguing character of like coming to an isolated place and like changing completely the family structure, and you're even like disturbing the gender roles because you are the caring one. I mean, you are giving birth, for example, in a very caring way to a young sheep, for example.
Yeah, I think anyway, Georgie comes from a different world, as I did when I came to film to start the filming, because I was kind of isolated there, especially in the beginning when I had to work at the farm, and I used it we had to work on farms for 2 weeks for preparing the character, And I kind of used the experience that I got there and used it to create the character and to create Georgi. And in the beginning, I mean, the relation between Georgi and Johnny isn't that, I mean, it doesn't have a great start.
No.
But obviously, in time, Johnny discovers that Georgi comes from a different world and has different approaches on how to work with animals, how to do farming, and that for him matters. What matters the most is the quality of life of the animals that he's taking care of, and this kind of warms Johnny a bit in time. And they begin to connect to each other.
So by the way, it's like your character, your figure you are playing, that opens like Johnny's eyes, like even for the beauty of the country, what he hasn't seen before. This is like quite interesting. Anyway, the circle of life, what you really like show pretty well in your movie. Why is it was so important for you to show it in God's Own Country? I mean, birth, death, for example, are very prominent.
Yeah.
Like even in the when Johnny's father gets the second, like almost like mortal stroke.
Yeah. So having grown up so close to livestock, to animals on a farm, birth, life, and death are daily occurrences. It's just part and parcel of everything you do on a day-to-day basis. And I wanted to make a very authentic film that felt to me that was truthful to that area and to those people. I also love I'm a big fan of metaphors and layering, so the film is very layered, and that whole life cycle I thought was very interesting to play for the character as well, that he's almost being reborn in a way when he is able to connect to himself.
How did you come up with the idea to combine like this like farmer's life, loneliness, being a gay young man, and the idea of the concept of a migrant? So this is like...
That's a complex question. So first of all, obviously the farming stuff comes from my experience, my family. I wanted to represent this world and those people truthfully on screen in a way in which I'd never seen done before from the UK. I wanted to I was working out myself about being in love for the first time and how difficult that is, so that's why we have him being like that. I also wanted to represent queer characters on screen again in a way I hadn't seen from the UK, where sexuality wasn't an issue, where that wasn't the driving force to make things difficult for their lives. The driving force that makes Johnny's life difficult is himself, is his emotional life, not his sexuality. And that was really important to me because, I feel strongly that's similar to myself and my friends, that what we deal with is what everyone else deals with, and we don't sit around feeling sad because we happen to be queer, and I wanted to celebrate that.
How has it been for you to work first with Frances, but also like playing a gay character?
Playing a gay character was a privilege, and being able to work with Frances Lee was also a privilege. It was like the way Frances works was like just so happened to be, or kind of not so happened, but just kind of I guess it was a really attractive way of working for me when I first met Frances, and then I think it just works for when I've read the script. It's so important those characters are completely lived in and experienced from an actor's point of view from the beginning of rehearsals until the end of the shoot, and that's what we did, and we worked really, really hard on making those characters as accurate and truthful as possible. Does that answer your question?
I think it's very hard to work with another director. We worked with Frances, at least for me. And his experience as an actor really helped us because he really knew how to push us and what to ask for us and how to. He really understands the process that an actor has when he's creating a character. We worked very thorough for these characters, and we began the work 2 months or 3 months before we started filming. So when we met in London, when we met in Yorkshire, we really knew what the characters were about and the point in life that they are now, and where they were born and what drove them to be here in this point. And I think it was a very healthy process of working for the three of us.
My very last question. Are you working already on a new project?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, I see. We talk about this like at the next Berlinale.
Yes.
Thanks so much for coming.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for
And,
having us.
The best for
Thank you.
the telly.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Hi, I'm Francis Lee. I'm the director and writer of GODS OWN COUNTR, which screens in the Panorama section.
Josh OConnor, and I played Johnny Saxby in GODS OWN COUNTR.
I'm Alec Secăreanu, and I play Gheorghe Ionescu in GODS OWN COUNTR, which screens in the Panorama section.
It's beautiful here. When I was a kid, I thought I would never leave my farm. It's beautiful here, but lonely, you know?
You are, Francis, an actor yourself. You directed like short films. You